Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My parents' marriage ended when I, 34 female, was 10 years old. At the time, I didn't understand why my dad was so devastated, or why my mom seemed so eager to move on. It wasn't until I was older that I learned the truth. My mom had been having an affair, and when she got pregnant with my half-sister Lily, 24 female, it marked the end of their marriage. The divorce was messy, but my dad tried his best to protect me from the worst of it. He fought hard for custody and was awarded joint custody, so I split my time between his house and my mom's new household with her affair partner, now stepdad, and eventually Lily. It didn't take long for me to notice the stark difference between how I was treated at my dad's house versus at my mom's. At my dad's house, I was his priority. He made sure I knew I was loved and supported, and he always showed up for me, whether it was a school play or a bad day. At mom's house, it was clear that Lily was the star of the show. From the moment she was born, my mom and stepdad doted on her endlessly. Every milestone Lily hit was celebrated like it was a national holiday, while my accomplishments were brushed aside or downplayed. For example, when I graduated high school, my mom and stepdad threw me a small dinner at home. It was nice, but very low-key. When Lily graduated, they rented a banquet hall, hired a professional photographer, and invited what felt like the entire town. It wasn't just the big events either. Little things, like who got the biggest slice of cake or the nicest birthday gifts, always seemed to go Lily's way. Growing up, I had mixed feelings about Lily. She was an adorable, bubbly child who thrived on attention, and while I loved her as my sister, it was hard not to feel a sting every time I was overlooked in favor of her. That said, I tried not to hold it against her. It wasn't her fault our parents treated us so differently, and she was just a kid. As we got older, we developed a cordial relationship. We were never especially close, but we weren't enemies either. Still, there's always been an underlying tension. Lily enjoys being the center of attention, and I've often felt like I had to step aside to accommodate her. I got married young, at 24, to my college sweetheart. At the time, I thought it was forever, but life doesn't always go the way you plan. We grew apart over the years, and despite trying to make it work, we eventually divorced. It was amicable, but the experience was still one of the most challenging periods of my life. A few years after my divorce, I met Mark, 38 male. We were introduced through mutual friends, and there was an instant connection. Mark had also been married before, so we bonded over our shared experiences and the lessons we'd learned. Mark is kind, supportive, and emotionally intelligent, and he treats me with a level of respect I didn't know exists. After 2 years of dating, he proposed, and I said yes without hesitation. This is a second marriage for both of us, but it feels just as special, if not more so, because we've both found someone who truly understands and values us. Mark and I decided on a small but elegant wedding with close friends and family. Having both been through big, elaborate weddings before, we wanted something more intimate this time around. However, we still wanted it to feel special, so we allocated a reasonable budget for the event. When we shared the news with our families, most people were thrilled for us, except for my mom. From the very beginning, she questioned the necessity of the wedding. "Do you really need to do this all over again?" she asked. "You're both already married once. Why not just go to the courthouse and save the money?" I tried to brush it off. "We want to celebrate with the people we love," I said. But my mom kept bringing it up. Every time we talked about the wedding, she found a way to suggest it wasn't necessary or that we were wasting money. At first, I thought she was just being her usual dismissive self, but then she made her true motives clear. One evening, Mom called me and said, "You know, Lily is getting married next year, and she could really use some help with the costs. Since it's her first wedding and such an important milestone, wouldn't it make more sense to put the money towards hers instead?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious?" I asked, laughing in disbelief. "Yes," she said, "completely serious. You and Mark have both had weddings before. It's not as important this time around. Lily deserves her dream wedding, so you could rather give that money for her wedding, and you can have something simple. It's the practical thing to do." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. My own mother was suggesting that I cancel my wedding, the celebration of my love and commitment to Mark, so that I could funnel the money into Lily's wedding instead. I laughed again, but not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe the audacity. "Wow, Mom," I said, "you've really outdone yourself this time. If you can't even be happy for me, then maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding at all." She was shocked. "You don't mean that," she said. "Oh, I mean it," I replied. "If you can't support me and Mark, and if you're more concerned about Lily's wedding than mine, then you don't need to be there." I hung up before she could say anything else. Since that conversation, my mom hasn't been calling. My aunt called me saying my mother is extremely insulted and hurt. Lily, to her credit, hasn't taken sides. She told me she had no idea Mom was going to suggest such a thing and apologized for the drama. As of now, my mom is still uninvited, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. This isn't just about the wedding. It's about years of feeling like I was second best. My mom has always prioritized Lily over me, and this was the final straw. Mark and I are moving forward with our plans. My dad, who has always been my biggest cheerleader, is walking me down the aisle, and I couldn't be happier to have him by my side. Part of me feels guilty for uninviting my mom, but another part of me knows it was the right thing to do. I've spent my entire life trying to earn her approval, and I'm done putting her happiness above my own. Reddit: am I the a-hole for standing my ground? OP's mom has clearly prioritized OP's half-sister over OP for years, and this suggestion is just another glaring example of that. Asking OP to cancel her wedding, her celebration of love and a fresh start with Mark, is outrageous. OP is absolutely right to stand her ground. If she can't support OP and be happy for her, she doesn't deserve to be part of OP's special day. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. This isn't just about a wedding. It's about your mom's blatant favoritism and disrespect for you. She clearly sees Lily's milestones as more important than yours, and that's unacceptable. You've done the right thing by setting boundaries and prioritizing your happiness. Don't let anyone guilt you into compromising. Enjoy your wedding with the people who truly love and support you. Not the a-hole. Your mom's behavior is absurd. Just because it's your second wedding doesn't make it any less meaningful. The fact that she even suggested canceling your wedding to fund your sister's shows how little she values your happiness. You're not selfish for wanting to celebrate your love. Going no contact with her for now might be the healthiest choice. You deserve peace and joy on your big day. Not the a-hole. Your mom crossed a huge line, and it's clear this isn't the first time she's treated you as an afterthought. You're doing the right thing by focusing on your wedding and the people who actually support you. It sounds like Mark and your dad have your back, which is all that matters. Let your mom deal with the consequences of her actions. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. You deserve every bit of happiness. I'm 37 male, the oldest of 4 boys. The subject of this post, Tom, 29 male, is the youngest and was recently married. Tom has always been the cheapest, most selfish, dishonest, and self-centered person I've ever known. If he wasn't my brother, I wouldn't have anything to do with him. I love him, but I really dislike him, and I avoid being around him if possible. The straw that broke the camel's back was 6 years ago when my mother passed away, and we found out he has gone into her room and taken some jewelry, meant for another of our brothers, and pawned it. We only found out because he had left his wallet at my parents' house, and the pawn ticket was visible. Since then, I would describe my feelings to him as detached indifference. When my wife and I got married 2 years ago, he was of course invited with a +1, not his new wife. My wife comes from a really loving, thoughtful, and generous family, and hadn't understood why my 2 other brothers and myself didn't really care for Tom, even after a couple of Christmases where she had brought him gifts and he didn't reciprocate. I've told her over the course of our relationship to expect nothing from him, and you won't be disappointed. But once it was over, she was upset that neither Tom or his +1 even bothered to give us a card. Fast forward to last month, and Tom got married. My dad, who I think dislikes my brother's behavior, although he would never say it, contributed to the cost of the wedding, as did Tom's new in-laws. My wife wanted to buy something off of their registry or contribute to a honeymoon fund they set up for around $200 to $250, which is usually our standard gift amount. But I refused. I told her I'm not going to reward his thoughtlessness and spend that much money on him. My wife asked me not to create drama, and I said we'll give them a gift, but it's sure not going to be $200. In the end, we showed up with a nice card and a gift wrap box of 6 personalized mason jars that cost around $25. 2 days ago, Tom's new mother-in-law called me and asked if mine and my wife's gift got lost in the mail. I've never spoken to this woman before or since the wedding. When I told her no, she said the dinner alone was at least $125 per person, and that giving a gift worth $25 was extremely rude, and that she expected more from Tom's brothers. I told her that I felt the same way about Tom, and that my wife and I gave him more than he gave us at our wedding. She then told me that since I'm the most successful out of all of my brothers, her daughter and Tom had been expecting at least $1,000 from my wife and I for their honeymoon, and that she expected us to do right by them. I told her to piss off and hung up. My wife is now upset at the drama and says we should have just given them the $200 like she originally wanted. My dad told me that Tom is angry at me and thinks I'm a jerk, but my dad shrugged his shoulders and told Tom that I was right about him not even giving a card for my wedding. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The mother-in-law is a piece of work. A wedding is not a transaction, and I really resent people trying to get you to pay back the cost of your meal. Sell tickets to the wedding if you're that cheap, but don't expect to make a profit. Sickening. Not the a-hole at all, but Tom's new mother-in-law sure sounds like a lunatic. I'd worry his new family will be a terrible influence, but sounds like he'll fit right in. Holy spit! What a loon! You, for absolute sure, are not the a-hole for that conversation. As for your little bro, not the a-hole there either. Now, maybe you could have done the bigger person thing and bought them something a little more practical for newlyweds other than mason jars. But overall, I think you were clear. In life, we reap what we sow, and his field was barren. My brother and I are twins, born shortly after our Indian parents came to U.S. As brown kids, school was rough, but we were always there for each other. My brother got into an Ivy League school. I got into a good uni. In uni, I met my future husband and his D-bag BFF. D-bag. So after uni, husband and I decided to marry. Major drama followed at home. Husband is white, but brother really stood up for us and eventually things turned around. I married husband. A year later, my brother went to India for work. He was there for 3 years, met an Indian girl, fell in love, got married, and decided to come back to U.S. in 2015. Sister-in-law got a job in a company where husband and D-bag work. In December 2017, brother discovered sister-in-law was cheating on him for 4 months with D-bag. He was devastated. Sister-in-law left him for D-bag after New Year's, but D-bag discarded her. Sister-in-law had a mental breakdown and did something that got her deported. My brother became a recluse and started avoiding everyone. In May 2018, he got a really good job opportunity in Qatar. He took it and moved away. But before going away, he gave us the full truth. Husband knew about the affair and even helped D-bag and sister-in-law hide the affair. This caused a major strain in my relationship with husband. Husband has apologized to everyone and deeply regrets everything. My brother just won't speak to him, and my parents are very cold towards husband. My brother has kept in contact with us for the past 2 years, and he is making 7 figures in Qatar. He also sends my daughter gifts for her birthday. Last Friday on a family call, he informed us that sister-in-law, after going back to India, got medical help for her bipolar disorder and low self-esteem. He has been making short trips to India since April 2018 to meet up with her and his in-laws till March 2020. Now, during virus, they have talked about living together in Qatar after everything normalizes. He has asked my parents to come join him in Qatar as he never wishes to return to U.S. I'm against my parents moving to Qatar since I'd be left without any family here, but I think my parents are considering it. So finally I asked, since he has forgiven sister-in-law, when does he plan to forgive my husband and move on? I would like for things to go back to normal. He said he owes my husband nothing, not forgiveness nor relationship. Even if he forgives my husband, he won't ever forget what happened. This made me lose my mind. I told him it feels like he is punishing me for what happened, especially trying to take mom and dad away with him. Why is he being such an a-hole? He told me my husband is the a-hole and not everything is about me. He needs to live his own life and I should too. He gave mom and dad a proposal. They can decide for themselves, then cut off the call. Now he isn't taking my calls and my parents are angry at me. Am I the a-hole? You want your parents around? Shocker. He does too. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, the a-hole. Yes, the a-hole. One of the basic rules of reconciliation after infidelity is to cut out anyone who encouraged it. Your husband was an accomplice. He betrayed your family, specifically your brother who stood up for him. Your brother is right. There is no reason for him to engage with your husband in any way. I would have voted no a-hole if you had just been disappointed in the consequences of your husband's actions. You ratcheted up to become the a-hole, though, by calling his offer to your parents punishment. Framing your parents' decision as taking sides and abandoning you is complete a-hole territory. Yes, the a-hole. He has incentive to forgive his wife. He loves her, and that is his choice. He isn't required to forgive your husband. And even if he chose to forgive, forgiveness does not equal reconciliation. Also, your parents can move where they want, when they want. They don't need your permission. Your brother isn't taking them away. He's made them an offer. He's entitled to tell his own parents he wants them to move with them, just as you can express your feelings towards your parents. You can't, however, control them. A bit of a long story here. I, 33 male, got engaged to my longtime partner, 30 female, this summer. My brother, 29 male, got engaged to his partner, 29 female, literally a week later. We have never been fans of my brother's choice in partner. She is very self-absorbed and emotionally manipulative, and has driven wedges between my brother and multiple family members. The family generally sees her as a bit of a gold digger. She even planned her own Disney proposal and guilted my brother into dropping $13,000 on a ring for her. She also tried to get my brother to cut ties with our youngest brother at one point, as she and him never saw eye to eye. She doesn't have a great relationship with her own mom, and has generally latched onto our mom as her de facto mother figure. She will constantly call and text her throughout the day. She also has a habit of inviting herself along when my mom is going out to dinner with other people, relatives. It annoys my mom to no end, but she's too polite to say anything about it. She even went wedding dress shopping with her a few weeks ago. Anytime somebody says something to my brother, he gets very defensive and says not to involve him. With that said, after they got engaged, we tried to make nice. I had even agreed to officiate their wedding, as I have done that for friends in the past. My fiancée went shopping for her wedding dress this weekend. She invited my mom and her own mom, and stepmom flew in from out of town. While they were getting brunch beforehand, my brother's fiancée kept calling and texting my mom asking to be invited out. My mom told her to ask my fiancé, something she never did. My fiancé only wanted the moms and didn't even invite her bridesmaids. After she kept persisting, I texted my brother and asked him to tell her to stop, which she did. I thought that was the end of it, but apparently, my future sister-in-law threw a giant tantrum afterwards. My mom tried to call my brother, and she picked up his phone to tell my mom she isn't speaking to her. My point of view is that she owes both my fiancé and my mother apologies. She tried to invite herself to an event that had nothing to do with her, but which was a very important life event for my fiancé. She then proceeded to make it about herself when she set some very reasonable boundaries. She never once asked my fiancé's permission. With that said, her narrative of events is that we meanly went out of our way to tell her she wasn't welcome. Am I the a-hole for refusing to officiate or even attending my brother's wedding if they don't have the courtesy to even apologize to my fiancé? Marinara, marinara! Red flags everywhere! First of all, not the a-hole. This woman is codependent as duck. A side note, if you want them to take a step back and have a serious conversation, take them camping for a week where there's no cell reception. It will show everyone who they are without each other, for good or bad. You sit back with a branch and some marshmallows. Not the a-hole. Your future sister-in-law is pushy and a nightmare, and you all need to start standing up to her and backing each other up. Your poor mom needs to remember she has a spine and wasn't born a jellyfish. Everyone needs to set firm boundaries with this nut job. It's only going to get worse. You are not the a-hole. You should only officiate what you want, when you want, if you want. You have no obligation to do it if you don't feel like it. I think your mother deserves an apology, since she was the one being bothered and was the target of the tantrum. Since your future sister-in-law never spoke to your fiancé, I'm not 100% sure if she deserves an apology too or not. A few years ago, I met this woman, Maggie. She was on a work visa originally from Europe. After casually dating for a few months, she told me she was pregnant and she wanted to keep the baby. I wasn't happy about this at all. This is not how I pictured starting my family. I was always careful and wore protection, even though she told me she was on birth control. After many discussions, I resigned myself to my fate of becoming a dad. I had no interest in having a romantic relationship with Maggie, something she kept pushing for. So the baby arrives, and I just fall in love with her instantly. I ended up loving being a dad to her, and me and Maggie seem to be doing an okay job of managing to co-parent. One day out of the blue, Maggie tells me she's met someone. Initially, I'm okay with it, only slightly concerned, as this will be a new person in our daughter's life. Then, she hit me with the kicker. He lived all the way on the East Coast, and she planned on moving and taking our daughter with her. It was like a gut punch. I immediately told her that wasn't happening, and I wouldn't allow it. It turned into a pretty big screaming match with her pretty much telling me she's doing it, and there's nothing I can do to stop her. For the next few days, I couldn't eat or sleep properly. On a conversation with my brother, he told me to go talk to a lawyer. Something about my brother. He's always been a calculating son of a biscuit. Remember that work visa? He reminded me to bring up the fact that it had expired quite a while ago. Well, I did that. Long story short, Maggie got deported and banned from entering the country for several years, and I got full custody. This wasn't my first choice, but I'll take it over only seeing my daughter once, possibly twice a year. I was telling a close friend the story, and she told me I did the wrong thing and that I shouldn't have taken the daughter away from her mother. I said she planned on taking her away from me and playing house with a man I knew nothing about, and she barely knew. So I'm here asking, am I the a-hole? Edit. I know I left out a lot of details. I'll try and fill some in. 1. I did try and talk her out of moving a few more times. She refused. 2. I asked if she would consider handing me primary custody. She refused. 3. I asked her to leave our daughter here with me for the first few months, just to see if they would work out. She refused. 4. I asked if he would move here. She said he couldn't and never gave any real reasons. 5. I am the father without a doubt. DNA test. 6. My work doesn't permit me much time off. At best, I would have only been able to fly out 2 times in a year. 7. My whole family is here, and I have always played a big part in our daughter's life. Her mother visited once. 8. I did file for child support on the advice of my lawyer, although I haven't ever received a penny. I never chased it. 9. I did agree to fly out once and she canceled. Never tried to arrange anything more. 10. She does video chat with our daughter regularly, and my daughter knows who she is. Everyone sucks here. She shouldn't plan to move so far away without your consent. That shouldn't be legally possible with shared custody. But you deported the mother of your daughter. Holy cow. You will pay a fortune for therapy sessions. Everyone sucks here. You could have gone to court and tried to get a custody arrangement which would have prevented her moving. You could have told your ex about her visa and given her warning. Now your baby won't see her mom for 6 years. You are a huge a-hole. Obviously, she is also the a-hole for trying to move cross-country. I don't think he's a major a-hole. She was being highly unreasonable and didn't want to even try to work something out with him. She kept antagonizing him. If you had a child and you knew they were getting taken away from you for a very long time, wouldn't you try to do whatever you could to stay with her? And a court case in custodies are very unfair. Most of the time the court and jury are lenient towards the mother, as it's stereotyped that the mother is the one with all the love and care for the kid. And in a lot of court cases, even if the mother is in the wrong, they get the major part of the custody. So I think he's not the a-hole. I agree they could have done something else, but she was being unreasonable, and he wanted nothing to do with her. And out of nowhere comes her new man that wants to take away her biological child. My paternal family owns a small local business. A number of non-family employees work there, but it is entirely run by family. I am due to inherit my dad's share in a couple of years. He died when I was 7, and it's in trust for me until I turn 25. My stepfather and his brother lost their business due to virus and have been out of work for many months, but tried to find work, but their age goes against them. So my stepfather applied for a position in the family business and was denied. He was pissed and asked me to get him a job there. Then mentioned that his brother needed a job too, and if I could get him in too, he would appreciate it. I told him no, that it wasn't a wise idea. He told me they should be helping him out since he's my parent and raised me, their niece and granddaughter, and it should count for something. I pointed out that they also have bad blood, that he and my mom blamed them for my not wanting to be adopted by him because they wouldn't encourage it, and that they also feel like they refused to allow me to forget about my dad. I pointed out it wouldn't be a good place for him to work. He said he would suffer through until this whole thing is over. I told him that he didn't belong in the business, that it was my paternal family, and the side of my family he hates, and he and his brother are not a part of that, and I would not let that bad blood destroy what they have spent a long time building up. He was real mad at how I worded that. He told me it was a bratty thing to say, and as his daughter, I need to think more about him and less about them. Now, what I said is where I'm struggling, about him not belonging, because I can admit it was harsh. But also, I'm a little like, it's not untrue. And the fact that bad blood is there means he especially doesn't belong there. Am I the a-hole? But you aren't his daughter. You're his stepdaughter. And if he wanted you to forget your dad and be adopted, regardless of how you actually felt about it, he clearly wasn't a good stepfather. You don't owe him anything. Not the a-hole. Is he implying he only raised you so you could do him favors? Hiring friends, family, is a slippery slope that can be hard to recover from, especially considering they hate the family that you inherited from. I'm sure there were nicer ways of saying it, but he has no right to demand that of you. Not the a-hole. I cannot stand people who call others bratty because they feel entitled to something. He sounds rotten, and you're making the right choice by not letting a man who thinks he can push you around and talk to you in that manner into the family business.